good day. I was there at the dawn of the 3D age of gaming, where 2D sprites gave way to polygons. And it all looked like crap for a while, but leave it to the boys at id to try to make 3D at least somewhat palatable, and they did so in their excellent mid-90s release, Quake.
Quake was originally developed by id Software and published by GT Interactive on June 22nd, 1996. I personally played the shareware release sometime after Quake 1 was released, and that is the version that I played primarily in my youth. Like with Quake 2, I was pretty fortunate as a kid, and my grandfather had an epic compact Presario desktop, and that computer allowed me to play this game at full graphics with full speed. And I never really liked Quake as much as the preceding Doom or later Quake 2, and when I built my first gaming PC in 2008, I rebought Quake 2, but Quake 1 would be forgotten for a couple years. We will get into why later. This version of Quake that we're looking at here is the updated re-release by Nightdive Studios, and it was released in August of 2021 for the PC and all current year consoles. It cleans up the graphics and adds some new effects and features the original Quake, the 2 original expansions, and 2 new ones developed by Machine Games. It adds in controller support, and the game controls quite well with the controller, and we get weapon wheel integration. The game has all the modern screen resolutions and is by far the definitive way to play the game today. Quake is a hub-based first-person shooter. You start each game by selecting a difficulty, and hard is bloody hardcore. You gotta jump over some lava, and if you want nightmare difficulty, you gotta find it, as it is hidden from the player. The base game gives you a good number of episodes, and the Machine Games developed ones are some of the best Quake levels ever, with wide open spaces and excellent battles. The arsenal this time around is pretty pedestrian. You got your various flavors of shotgun, a double-barreled nail gun, a nail gun minigun, a grenade and rocket launcher, and finally a lightning gun. Personally, I never found any of these weapons to be that fun, and you never found enough nails, and the shotties were never a one-hit kill past the first level of an episode, and so Quake works a little differently from the other id games. When you start an episode, you begin in a standard tech base and fight zombie men and the like, but every level afterward will be in an Eldritch castle. The zombie men are easy enough to kill with the shotgun, but in the base game, they disappear after the first level, and you are left with just Cthulhu monsters. They are all bullet sponges, and they do a crap ton of damage to you, and health gets very rare once you finish the shareware episode. The most common enemy in the game is this bloody ogre, aka the rye bread of this game. He takes a crap ton of damage, has a chainsaw for a hand, and shoots bouncy bloody grenades, and single-handedly made me kinda hate the game these days. Then you got the Shambler. Here, this abominable snow bastard makes the Cyber Demon look easy. Not only does the game love to spawn him in small rooms, he's got claws and an insta-hit lightning attack. Screw you, game! My favorite enemy is not too hard to take down and is bloody creepy and cool. The zombie is similar, but legally distinct from the zombie man. The zombie has no weapons but his guts. Although, in fairness, they're not that huge. He throws bits of himself at you, and they do pretty good damage, too. The only way you can kill one is by blowing him to pieces. The levels are pretty bloody boring in terms of color palette, and are really bloody tedious to navigate. There are traps every bloody where. Once you finish the shareware episode of the game, the fun, for me at least, ended. The shareware episode is your typical id Software fun fest. Straightforward levels, good enemy counts, and you can just run and gun to your heart's content. That ends the second you get to the bloody registered version of the game. Fairness, ha! What's that? For me, I like running and gunning my first-person shooters, and Quake, outside of that shareware episode, does not offer that at all. With that in mind, the new episodes don't either, and the enemy placements are annoying as all hell. However, if you like the idea of a tough game, this is the game for you, and I do recommend it if you find Quake 2 too easy. Oh, despite me banging on about how much I don't like Quake 1, it's not as though I hate it. I hate that ogre, cause screw that chainsaw bastard. Since my retro revival way back in 2008, I have always kept this game on my hard drive and even got it working on my DS. My problem with Quake 1 is it just doesn't have quite the flow that other id games have, and is by far my least favorite of the Golden Age id games. which is not saying that much since I have a lot of treasured Quake gaming memories. See, every id Software game from the 90s advanced gaming in some way, and Quake advanced it in a big way. While its 3D graphics were nothing to write home about, its multiplayer was, and Quake helped advance online multiplayer as a concept, and many millions of gamers cut their teeth on the Quake multiplayer goodness. In the 90s, I did not have the internet, but even I got into Quake multiplayer in 2011. Better late than never. I got it working back in 2011 with the Dark Places source port, and I played many hours of the game with friends and the first girl I ever dated. So yeah, got me some major love for old Quake, and its multiplayer is still worth it today as it's chaotic and uncomplicated. Just jump in and get to blasting. So yeah, them graphics. Nightdive did their best to clean them up, but Quake's graphics have never looked that great. Everything is a polygon, and the textures are pretty low res, the level textures don't fare too much better, and the whole game just had a muddy feel to it, and none of the enemies ever stood out either. All told, the graphical design was just about as nasty and as forgettable as the water. Despite that negativity, the sound was nothing short of exceptional. It were going for creepy, and they got it right. All the monsters sound pretty scary, and if you got some good headphones, you can find yourself creeped out by hearing some of the monsters groaning and moaning. Oh my. Funny enough, the ogre has the same roar as the pig cop in Duke 3D. Now, if only he was as fun to fight. Music in this game is almost non-existent. Instead of the awesome and memorable tracks like we had in Doom, Quake goes for more of an industrial atmospheric sound, aka the game sounds pretty dead most of the time, and I find myself getting kind of bored due to the lack of good music. Yeah, my Trent Reznor and 9 Inch Nails, yeah, those are your no-name bands. I will say this though, the title track is pretty damn good, until it isn't. You got these awesome metal beats and then just random spooky screaming. 9 Inch Nails! Story, it's even more non-existent than usual, but like usual, the id boys got my young imagination running overtime trying to figure out what was going on. The game doesn't start up with a cutscene, and you gotta have the manual to have any idea as to who you are and what you were doing. And even then, the guy you're playing as didn't get a name until Quake 3. You are Ranger. You were the last surviving member of a military that was experimenting with Slipgate tech. Dr. Insano opened a portal to the Cthulhu dimension, and all sorts of creatures that were similar to, but legally distinct from, the demons of hell poured out and killed everyone. And now you have to be a bad enough dude that is similar to, but legally distinct from, Doom Guy to take them all down. Your objective, other than getting to an exit, is to kill a boss at the end of each episode and collect a rune. Get all the magic runes, and then you face the final boss. Quake 1 would kind of be a divorced installment. Pretty much, we only ever see Quake 2 story elements going forward, and that game was never meant to even be a sequel to this game. However, be it luck or good design, the Strogue symbol does appear on some crates here and there, and Quake 1 would have a major impact on id Software stuff going forward. This game would introduce quad damage as a power-up, and that would appear in Quake 2 and Doom 2016. Further, the very concept of the Slipgate would appear in Doom Eternal. Despite all my complaints, Quake 1 was a major milestone in gaming and more than deserves its place in the id pantheon.
Super Nintendo versus Sega Genesis, Mass Effect 1 versus Mass Effect 2, and Quake 1 versus Quake 2. It all comes down to preference. If you like running and gunning and have a good time, you'll enjoy Quake 2. If you like Trent Reznor droning in your ear and slow and methodical gameplay, well, you might just be a Quake 1 fan. But anyway, cheekiness aside, Quake 1 is still a pretty damn fine game. If you haven't played it in a while, fire up that Nightdive remaster and have some fun. And so, I'm General Lotz, wishing you good Blake Stone and the Aliens of Gold, and good Corridor 7, or whatever makes you happy.
If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing, and please consider leaving a like or a comment, as the algorithm desires your soul. And I want to thank all those fans who have supported this channel, both past and present.